In this lecture, we are going to talk about dictionaries. So let's create another playground. Click Next. I'm going to call my dictionary. And let's see what dictionary is. So far, we have seen what array is. So let me write an array here. And let's say that this array is going to hold strings. And this is equal to empty array. This is how we can instantiate an empty array. But if you want to put some value there, we say value 1, value 2. So our array has two values here, and it's a type of string array. It holds string. So what the array is holding keys as its indexes, which is 0 and 1, and it has these values. So the dictionary and we can say that this is as string colon string. So what dictionary is, the difference between the dictionary and array, I'm just going to instantiate an empty dictionary here. The difference between dictionary and array is that array is index then value, so it's always numerical and based on 0. And the dictionary, you can set the key, which is on the left of the column, and the value is on the right. So for example, I can say like first name, which is our key, is equal, and the value is, for example, going to be Bob. So this is one object. Then I can say like age, which is key again, and pay attention that here we have to provide string as key, and value is also we have set as string. So we can say age, and the value is going to be like 19, but this is string. So if I want to access, for example, the first name from my dictionary, I'm going to call the key. For example, here in array, I would say array, and we put 0, and it will access the value 1. But for my dictionary, if I want to access value 1, so this is first key value pair, and this is the second key value pair. So if I want to access the name, I'm going to say dictionary, and then I'm going to access it with a key, and our key for the dictionary is first name. So I can say first name, and if I run the code, it's going to bring Bob here, because the value of my first name key is Bob. I can also access the key age, and after running, it's going to print 19 here. And the array, you can see it prints value 1, which is our array at index 0. So this is the main difference between the arrays and dictionaries. Another difference is when we are using dictionary, here we can have any value, and then I can have like the number age is 19 and its number, and this is perfectly valid now because we are setting that our array, our dictionary, the keys are going to be strings, but the value can be anything. So if I print age now, and it's not going to be a string, you see that two double quotes are gone now, and we have just a number here. So if I, for example, go here and say print, let's call this let my age is equals, and we set it to the value there, and I say print my age, and you see that it has a value of any and the question mark, and remember the question mark means it's an optional. So why is it an optional? First of all, because when we're accessing some kind of key, it doesn't mean that our dictionary has this key. So I can say, for example, name here, I'm accessing the key name, and as you can see, my dictionary doesn't have a key name. So if I try to, right now this is an optional, so this may be nil, which doesn't return any value, it's empty, or it may have a value. So in my case, if I run now, it's going to print nil because my dictionary doesn't have any key with the name, so it doesn't return any value here. But if I say age here, and if I run, it will say that it's an optional 19. So right now, I cannot use my age here. For example, I cannot say age plus equals 1, which means that I'm adding 1 to my age value, because right now my age is an optional. So my Xcode doesn't know what I'm sorry, it's my age here. So my Xcode doesn't know what type is my age because currently it's as any. Also, it should be var here because we are trying to change the value of it, and that's why it's complaining, because when let is constant, you cannot change the value once you set it. So now we see the reason that it says cannot convert of type value any, which is by the way optional, to an integer, because we are using plus equals with our integers. So what we are going to say to fix this, first of all, when we are using dictionaries and now we have an optional value, we want to make sure that this value doesn't return nil, because if it does, this thing is going to crash our application. So remember from the previous lesson, we have few different ways of checking if some variable have value. So I can use one of them here. Say if my age is not equals to nil, so it means we have some kind of value here. Then we can say that my age, and we are going to, right now I cannot say plus 1 because our Xcode doesn't know what exact type this is. So it says binary operator plus cannot be applied to operator of type any, and it's an optional. And then it says any and optional is on the left side and integer, which is 1, on the right side. So for now we need to tell our Xcode that my age that we are getting from our dictionary, first of all, is not an optional because we are already checking that it doesn't contain a nil. And then we need to specify that this is an integer because we know that our value here is an integer. So how we are going to do this? I can say var my temp int is equals to my age, and then I specify that this is as int. When we use as keyword, we are telling our Xcode that we know that please treat this as an integer. So like we are telling that that you are thinking that this is an any type, but please use it as integer because we are sure that we are going to get back an integer. And since our my age is an optional value, when we are using as, we are going to force unwrap this into an integer. We are going to do this only when we are 100% sure that we have some type of value, which we have done here. We have checked if my age has any value, and then we know from our dictionary that the age is holding value of integer. So we can force unwrap this. And then at the bottom here, now I can say my temp integer plus 1. So let's comment out my print here, and I'm going to run my code. And now it says that my temp integer, which we force unwrap it to an integer, is equal to 19. And then my temp integer, we add 1, and it becomes 20. So we are telling our Xcode that we have this value, we know that it's an integer, we are checking if it's not nil, and we know that it's an integer. So go ahead and do the math here. But what if I go here and change this 19 into a string by putting double quotes next to it. And if I run my code now, this is going to crash our application. And the reason is that we take my age, which is a string apparently, and we are telling that Xcode treat this as an integer. We are sure that this is an integer. And when it tries to treat this as an integer, it crashes because this value is a type of string. So you cannot use this. Yeah. But let's see if we say as int, and if we run now, see what's going to happen. It says any is not converted to an integer. Did you mean? And let's see what it has to offer us. And it is asking us to force unwrap this to an integer because it's an optional and it wants to use some calculation. So this is offering us to force unwrap our string to an integer, because here Xcode just tries to help us somehow to fix the problem, but our Xcode doesn't know that our age here is an integer. It's not an integer, it's just a string. But if we tell our dictionary that it's going to hold the key as string and value as a string, so now our Xcode is smart enough to help us out here. Now it says cast from optional string unrelated type int, and let's open it, says always fails. So every time we try to convert a string into an integer, it will always fail. So if I run the code, the Xcode is telling me that this is always going to fail and it's always going to return an error. So now we are helping Xcode by telling what type of values we are going to hold in our dictionary, and it becomes smarter and helps us on the way down, so we know what's going on here. So when we're talking about dictionaries, what you need to remember that it has key value. The keys can be any hashable, so mainly we are using string or numbers here. So you can say like var other dictionary, and it's going to have an int as key and let's say string as value, and we're going to say it equals to like index which is the key 0 is Bob. Then we say key 1 and the value is Andy. But this way it's very close to an array. So if you want to have an integer and a string or any other object here, it's better to go with arrays because you don't have to specify all the indexes at every time. But let's say if you want to start it at one index, okay, this way you can use the dictionary because array automatically starts at the 0 index. So if I say my dictionary and then I want to get the index 1, and if I print it, okay, let's just comment this part out. If I print it, I have my dictionary here. I need to say other dictionary, and let's print this, and it says that my key 1 is related to Bob. And if I print the key 2, it will say Andy here, because now the key 2 is Andy. So the dictionaries can hold any types here as any hashable as a key, and you can have any type here as the value. And the main difference between arrays and dictionaries is that the dictionaries you have to specify what is the key and what is the value, while in arrays you only specify the values, and the indexes, the keys, are just 0 based or numerical values, 0, 1, 2, 3, etc.